Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Be Productive, hosted by business strategist and productivity expert Clara Capano. Join us to discuss the most critical issues affecting our businesses with a fresh, practical, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Be Productive starts right now.
Welcome back to Be Productive. One of the things I love to do is to look at different ways that I can grow my business. I love investing in my business growth. But the reality is, I don't have a blank check. I don't have unlimited resources to do this. So if I'm going to grow my business strategically, I need to make sure that I am managing my finances. I also have to look at if I'm budgeting the right way. So to help me with the conversation about talking about financial management for growth is my friend Rob Tritt with Profit Partners. So Rob, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Clara. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, you and I love to talk about productivity, efficiency, growth, and all these things when it comes to businesses. You know, we have to talk about the dollars because we can't just spend money frivolously. We have to really be strategic and make sure that we are managing our budget and growing in the right way. So talk to us a little bit about financial management practices. What are some of the ones that are critical for sustaining proper growth?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Most businesses, obviously, most businesses are not Microsoft and Coca-Cola with unlimited budgets. But most businesses fail because of poor cash management. That's really what it comes down to. So just managing their cash flow is a simple thing to do on a regular basis. I would say regularly, like weekly. Looking at keeping an eye on how much money is being spent, where it's being spent and who's spending it, having a budget for each department and as well as for the company as a whole, and sticking to that budget is going to be huge. Also forecasting, and you don't need a complicated system, but it could be a simple static or it could be a rolling forecast. That where we're just looking at historical income and expenses. And then that way we kind of have an idea what we spent this time last quarter. So we can kind of think, we'll probably spend about the same this quarter, so at least give us a ballpark to work with. So just having a simple forecast and one thing that business owners don't think about, of course, is a rainy day fund. These unexpected things that just happen to show up, because again, business owners, they don't have unlimited budgets, so a lot of times surprises can be a real problem. So having at least a 3 to 6 month cash reserve is essential.
I'm really glad you bring that up because I think in our personal lives, we're taught that, again, to always have money for the rainy day if the car needs work or something happens in the house. But I think a lot of businesses don't have this, especially in the early stages of growth. They're putting everything back in, and we've heard it before that most businesses don't make a profit. So what can businesses do, especially in those early days when maybe they're not making a lot of revenue? What are some things that businesses can do to plan for financial stability, especially during uncertain times?
Yeah, and that's a tricky one. How do you pay all the expenses? How do you make a living? And then how do you put aside extra money? So that's where the budget comes in. Just having a smart allocation of funds, knowing exactly where things are being spent. Money's not being wasted on frivolous projects and things that just don't make a difference, don't move the needle. So it really is going to come down to knowing where expenses are, where the money's coming in, and how it's leaving the business, and allocating that money properly, including specifically setting up a fund that's separate from the operating expenses, from the profit, from the taxes, from the payroll, that's designated as a rainy day fund.
Yeah. And I know doing that really saved me during the pandemic because as a speaker, needless to say, I had about a 6-month hiatus,
Right.
and if I didn't have that money set aside, I wasn't able to allocate it into growth, but I was able to have it there to sustain me. And, that was a real lesson that I learned. I want to come back to the budget though, because you brought budgeting up a couple of times.
Mhm.
Do you think we should actually have sort of, I'll call it a bucket? We have buckets for all of our different expenses. Do you think we should sort of have a bucket allocated specifically for accelerating our growth?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think when, let's say the operating expense bucket starts to overfill, you can put some into the profit bucket. And then if that gets overfilled, then you can put that into an investment bucket. And that money you can actually use to build investments for the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Having
Definitely.
the different buckets and
Yeah.
allocating specific percentages to those is very important.
Yeah. One of the things that has helped me is, and one of the areas that has really, again, been an investment for me, specifically in the growth of my business, is with a coach. I've been a coach. I have coaches. You're a coach.
Mhm.
How have you seen? Can you give us maybe an example of somebody that you've worked with? Because investing with an expert like you as a performance coach in business is a great way to accelerate the growth process. So, talk to us a little bit about how a coach can really help someone.
Well, an important thing I think the coaches do is they provide an objective third party perspective. When business owners are knee deep in their business every single day, or maybe neck deep into it, it's hard to be able to tell exactly which direction to go because they're so married to the business. There's so many emotions involved, and having an objective third party to say, you're doing this, you're doing that, but you should also be doing this other thing, or you should be doing this thing instead of what you're doing. So giving that kind of objective direction, and then of
Mhm.
course holding them accountable to it. Unfortunately, the biggest problem I have really is just getting people to commit to doing the work. That's the hardest part. So, uh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I know that for me, investing in a coach has just helped me because, like you said, it's sort of having that sounding board. They can help you make better quality decisions so that you are, again, setting your budget up, but doing it in the right way. Again, you can look at the systems to start to track and measure so you know what is and what isn't working. So, if
Yeah.
somebody is looking to bring a partner in as a coach, someone like yourself, where's some place that they can connect with you and learn more about these services that you offer to help them?
Oh, well, I'm always on LinkedIn. So Rob Tritt on LinkedIn for sure. My website is profitpartnergroup.com. You can always call me or text 770-256-8216. And you can email rob@profitpartnergroup.com.
Yeah, and I love the name of your company because don't we want a partner in our profits? So
Absolutely.
love it. So
Absolutely.
Rob, thank you so much. And for those of you that are following, again, thinking about these, you've always got to be growing your business. Remember the old adage, you're either growing or you're dying. So you always want to be investing in growth, which means that you're going to have money allocated to invest back into your business, making sure that you're also always putting money aside for that rainy day because you just never know when something might come up. And if you don't have that, that's going to zap your focus, which is also going to zap your productivity. So when you can budget and really manage your finances, it's going to be allow you to really put in the effort, the attention, and the focus for proper growth. So stay tuned because we'll be right back with more Be Productive. Welcome back to Be Productive. In our next segment, we are going to be really diving deep into the key foundational thought processes and systems when you are looking to build your own consulting business. Because remember, at the end of the day, we want everything to be designed to not only build revenue, but also allow us to stay productive and really work at a high level. So to help with this conversation, I am bringing in my friend, Feras Alhlou. Feras, welcome to the show today.
Clara, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, we have some amazing things to talk about that I know are really going to get people thinking and make sure that they're doing things the right way, whether they are just getting started with building a business, or possibly now it's time to take a step back and reset themselves so they can go forward. So let's dive into it. When you are looking to start your own consulting business, or possibly looking to, again, reset and pivot, what are some of the first steps that you think people should be taking?
Sure. And I speak with from my own experience, and also I speak to, on the average, 1 to 2 founders every week. So I hear a lot of stories, and I think the first steps and what entrepreneurs, I think, miss, probably the number one reason why startups fail is that they're excited about the idea. They think they can go and save the world or have a huge impact, which is great. I want you to have that passion, but you have to vet the idea. I think the very first step, before you even go into a full sort of business plan writing exercise, make sure, what are the skills that you have? What are the issues, the problems you see out there? And can you then match what you know, whether it's hard skills, soft skills, your resources, and then with the issues, the challenges, the pain points, the aspirations of your target audience, and go out and speak with, I would say, 10 people who are likely to be your clients, and see what the reaction is to what you offer. How can you make your offering stand out? Maybe you can deliver faster, cheaper, higher quality, whatever the case might be. I think spending some time speaking with potential buyers, and also examining and researching and knowing the competition really well, and then figuring out a way that you'll stand out. If you can't stand out from the crowd, it's going to be really hard to get that business up and running. So that would be like the very first step, is spending some time on vetting the idea itself.
That is something that I did not do. I just had this idea and I'm like, well, of course people would want this. And I just dove in, and it was really challenging. And then I started talking with my coach about, again, doing market research. And I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. So I love what you're saying. And again, you can really cut through so many missteps when you take the time to vet, to, again, examine the real problem, how you can be the solution, and also, again, look at the competition. So I think that is just extremely valuable. One of the other things that I hear a lot with people is the fear of really falling into a niche. I think sometimes on the surface level, we're afraid because we don't want to exclude anyone.
Yeah.
What I have found is that having a niche actually allows us to serve at a higher level. So how do you, as a consultant, start to, one, identify, but then also validate being in the right niche?
Yeah. They say riches in the niches, and I do agree with that. And in my journey, we started broad, and then over the years, we really, at least in one of the businesses, we started to really focus on one area, and that worked out really well for us. And I would say, if you're just starting, I would say start broad and get to know the marketplace, the vendors, the buyers, the suppliers, obviously the customers. And then over time, maybe after 6 months, I've done 20 projects, and I've done a lot of work for dentists, and I love this, and I know this space really well. So maybe you want to niche down. So I would say start broad, learn, and then niching down is, we talked earlier about standing out and being recognized. So it's easier for you to stand out as a small fish in a small, a little bit slightly bigger fish in a small pond than in a big fish in an ocean, right? So I think niching down is okay. Look at your skills, look at your background. Let's say you're into communication and you were in sports in high school or in college. So potentially you can find areas where you can add, you have a skill set and you have a background in sports, so you can relate more to those who are in sport, right? So I think look at not just your professional skills, but also your personal experiences and the skills you have outside of work, and see how you can use all of that to focus on a niche, on a segment of the population that you can connect with better, and your messages will resonate with them better.
Yeah, fantastic. Feras, as an entrepreneur yourself, and the fact that you actually are working with growing entrepreneurs every day, you really have seen this from the ground floor all the way to the top. What have been some of the common mistakes? You talked about the vetting, knowing your competition, you talked about finding your niche, but what would be some of the other common mistakes that you see new entrepreneurs, new consultants having missteps on.
Yeah, and we have a PDF on nine ways or 9 reasons why startups fail. And I would say I'll quickly cover a couple of them. One sounds funny, but I would say never do your own accounting.
Ooh.
If you're a solopreneur and you have one client and you don't have any people that you're hiring, maybe it's okay. But if you are growing and you're starting to hire and have a lot of clients and have some vendors, I know founders who've been in the business for years and they're still doing their own accounting. My friends, guys and gals, outsource accounting to someone else and focus on the business, focus on the clients, focus on growth. So the back office stuff, outsource to a trusted partner. And the second thing, and briefly here, is I think a lot of us, we underestimate what it takes to really get a business and grow it, especially in the early stages, because you have to learn a lot beyond your own skill set and your area of your domain knowledge. You have to learn about every aspect of the business. If you've never hired people before, hiring is going to be a new thing. If you've never set up emails or if never managed a network of computers. So there's a lot of learning involved. And I think a lot of us underestimate the effort. So going into this, speak with others. Another black belt principle here, advisors. Don't talk to anyone. Speak with those who have been to where you want to go. They'll give you, I think, practical knowledge that you can, or at least they'll share their experiences to help you get there faster.
That's fantastic. You know, another misstep that I see is I am blown away at the amount of people who do not have a written business plan and are looking to launch a business. How important do you feel it is to have a written business plan? How often should we be reviewing it? And then what are some of the key components that you think should be in a solid business plan?
Yeah, and actually yesterday I posted on LinkedIn on that same topic. And basically, I don't want you to spend 3 weeks writing a 50-page business plan. No, you gotta iterate. You gotta iterate on the go. I don't want you to also to take the leap, leave your full-time job or jump into a business idea without doing some vetting and some planning. So it's a balance. I would say do that vetting of the business idea, as we said earlier, and then start documenting your findings. And basically in the business plan, you don't need a professional initially. I think just like every aspect of the business. Okay, if you have partners, who's making decisions, who's calling the shot, who's doing what, then marketing, sales, the market research that you have to do, financials, of course, and then maybe a few other things, and that would be the business plan. So I would say write down, research, and then implement, learn from that. And I would say initially, maybe revisit it on a quarterly basis, and then later, as you are more established, do maybe a review every year. But definitely don't get stuck writing a 50-page business plan and don't go off of the sort of the Silicon Valley. It's a back of the envelope. I was at a bar and on a napkin. Okay, there's more to it than that. Trust me.
A little bit more to it than that. A little bit more. Fantastic. One last question I want to ask you is, you alluded to this in one of the earlier comments of seeking out advice and, really looking to people who have done what it is that you are looking to do, and this really brings me to the idea of mentorship. I have been so lucky to have some amazing mentors in my life that have helped me to grow at a faster pace. Talk to me a little bit about mentorship and, do you encourage your people to do this, and how do you find a good mentor?
Exactly like you said, Clara, no one has done it alone. No one has gone to the top or been successful without the help of others. No matter what you hear on YouTube, a lot of us get help and get a lot of help. So I would say, Damon John, one of the sharks on Shark Tank, he said, I attribute my success to 2 things: the mistakes I made, and then the people who gave me advice. So find people who know you, people who care about you, and they have domain knowledge in the area that you need help with. So I would say you can have a coach, a mentor, an advisor. It doesn't matter. You need someone to help you build your website. That's a web designer. That's an expert, but someone who can give you more of a strategic perspective, can show you some of the challenges you're about to, let's say you want to hire your first person. If you never hired anyone before, talk to someone about hiring. As a matter of fact, here's a quick tip. Go on Upwork and spend $100 and hire someone who's senior in that area that you want to hire in, and have them interview with you. That will save you 3 times their salary, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. A bad hire could cost you up to 3 times an employee's salary. So seek the help of others. It will help you expedite your growth and get there with less mistakes. It's still not easy. It'll still be hard, but it'll be easier than doing it on your own.
So true. I was always, informed early on that the quote, success leaves clues. So again, look to the other people who are having success, learn from them, and really lean into that. So, Feras, this has just been an amazing conversation. You have so much knowledge, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. Where can people find you if they want to reach out and learn more about you and the services that you offer?
Yeah, thank you, Clara. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, you can go to startupwithferas.com, and Feras is spelled F-E-R-A-S, just like my first name, or go on YouTube at startupwithferas.com. And we have a daily newsletter, and we have a lot of content on all things entrepreneurship, from vetting the idea to working with partners to accounting to legal, sales and marketing and delivery. So hope you find that information valuable. And if you like it, just hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Beautiful. Well, Feras, thank you again. And for all of you that are following, I hope you took lots of notes, because there were so many powerful tips in here. So remember, starting your own business as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, is a fabulous way. And we want to make sure we're doing it the right way so that we can be and stay productive. I'm your host, Clara Capano. Stay tuned, because we'll be right back for more of the show. Welcome back to Be Productive. As business owners and leaders, we know the importance of having systems in place. But what do we do when we find out that those systems are not running the right way, or more importantly, are not compliant? That's going to set us back days, weeks, possibly even months. So to help us talk about the importance of having regulatory compliance with all of our systems to protect our information is my friend, Greg Schafer. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, Clara.
Now, you've been in the information technology area for many, many years. Talk to us a little bit about how, as business owners and as leaders, that we can ensure compliance with all the various information systems that are out there.
Well, this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but the best way is to initially not focus on the compliance requirements per se. You want to build a holistic information security program built on a standard like the NIST cybersecurity framework. Now, while you're doing this, of course, you want to understand your compliance needs. The reason why I say that is that if you build a program holistically like that, based on one of those frameworks, you'll meet at least 90%, give or take, of the compliance requirements for whatever regulation that you're trying to reach. And if you dig into the details a little bit more, we'll take PCI, for example. That's the payment card industry data security standard for retailers. When you give a credit card to a retailer, you swipe it or you tap it, they have to be PCI compliant. If you're a merchant, you have to comply with that framework. Now, there are several levels of compliance, if you will, assessments, levels based on your complexity, how many cards you're taking. And most of the time you can assess yourself. Sometimes if you take a lot of cards, you need to have an auditor come in. But the point is that once you've determined your level, you have to assess your organization against the dozens or even hundreds of requirements, and you have to interpret the results correctly. And here's where it gets to be a little bit difficult, where people really fall into a trap. They might say a requirement might be, well, we need to have multi-factor authentication in place. That's when you have the little authenticator on your phone that you put in a code with. And so you know that you do that because getting to email, well, every time I log into my email on the web from Microsoft Office, for example, I got to put in a code. So we have multi-factor authentication. But the PCI requirements actually are broader, where it requires that for all systems that are involved with that credit card number. And the point is, if you answer it not exactly. You can risk not being able to take credit cards anymore. The PCI Council might say you are not compliant. If you take MasterCard or Visa, they might say, or Discover or Amex, with all the ones out there, they might take away your right for it. So the whole point, and the same thing with cyber security insurance as well, too. So the whole point is that you want to make sure that you respond correctly. Otherwise, you could be in danger of losing those services.
And yeah, you lose those services. That could just completely change the landscape of how you serve your customers. And again, having to then backtrack and re-put things in place. That could zap a company's and organization's productivity right there. I would imagine one of the biggest challenges that it's out there is the changing of compliance and regulation, because it doesn't stay stagnant. It's changing all the time. So this means that we have to constantly audit. So talk to us about the importance of auditing in making sure that we are staying in compliance.
Well, yeah, regulations change. Like I just mentioned PCI. Well, PCI 4.0, the first major update to that regulation, I think in like 10 or 12 years, something like that, just became effective this past March. So not only is that changing, but technology changes and the threat environment changes. So compliance always changes. You may be in compliance one year and not in compliance the next year, and you would have done nothing different. We talk about in information security the 3 lines of defense, and briefly, it's important to understand that in context of audit, because audit's one of the 3 lines. The first line are your IT folks that do your firewall configurations, antivirus, endpoint detection, logging, all those technical wizardry things, setting up email accounts and SharePoint access so that you access what you need to and not what you're not supposed to. That's first line of defense. And then the second line of defense is the risk management portion. That's where the chief information security officer, or by extension for small and mid-sized businesses, the virtual chief information security officer, sits there. And that's more of a strategic role. That's where we are determining, well, what do we need to put in place to mitigate risks? And then the third line is audit. And audit, I like to say, keeps first and second line honest, but it really provides the oversight to make sure, A, that the business is doing what they say that they're going to be doing to protect information, and B, that they're adhering to whatever compliance standard, like again, PCI could be one, SOC 2 could be one. And if it's an external auditor, then the external auditor can produce then a report for customers and prospects that have a third-party attestation now about the compliance of your organization. And that's the key. That's very important. If you can get to that point, then you can show to interested parties, hey, this audit shows that we are doing what we say that we're doing in protecting your information.
Yeah. Wow. So many different levels that we need to keep in mind. And I would think that a lot of people might believe that they need to have somebody on site, but you've been doing this for years and you do this virtually, and you've been an expert in this area for such a long time. So what does a partner like you, someone who is virtual, be able to, help facilitate all this and bring this together?
I like to say that we act as a translator. And what I mean by that is that we translate between the business and the auditor. And where this comes into play often, sometimes auditors, particularly the ones that are new to the audit field, they're fresh off of being educated. They want to prove their worth out in the field. And they find that you're not doing one particular requirement of one of those regulations or standards. They look at the environment in binary terms, and either you're doing something or you're not. But they're forgetting that what we're trying to do is we're trying to mitigate the risk, not necessarily check a box with regards to one requirement. And that's where the concept of compensating controls comes into play. One of the things that I do often is I'll be talking with an auditor will say, you're not doing X. And I'll say, well, we're doing A, B, C, D, and E. And not only are we mitigating the risk, reducing it to an acceptable level of what X would have done, we're actually doing it better because we have layers there. And It's very hard for a business owner to be able to do that directly with an auditor because they don't understand the information security aspects of the controls, and vice versa. It's hard sometimes for the inexperienced auditor to understand the business enough to be able to pull out those controls. So that's probably the best thing that we can do. The other
Wow.
thing is that the virtual CISO, well, at least the best ones out there, the good ones, they're effective communicators. And because of that, they're a very effective ally to have on your team.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. This needs to be part of your team. This is part of the overall umbrella of making sure that, everything is being covered, because if we want to be able to achieve the results we want to achieve as a business owner, we've got to have all these different parts together. So, Greg, you always bring so much insight into areas that many of us never even think about. I would love to learn a little bit more about you and your story. Tell us a little bit more about your company, and some of the services that you can offer people.
Well, it's truly a passion that I formed the company back in 2017. I wanted to be able to help small and mid-sized businesses with the items that we talked about and more, the translation, for example, that I realized that they didn't have the skill set, they didn't have access to folks like me that can do that. And in that sense, they were losing productivity because they were, in some cases, spinning their wheels trying to figure out how to reach compliance with certain areas. And that's what we really focus on. But we don't focus on just compliance. We focus on building that security program. If an organization comes to us and just wants to be compliant with something, we ask them politely to look somewhere else, because our passion, our goal, our meaning is to build security programs that are holistic enough that not only will they protect your information, which is the most important thing, but they'll also make sure that you're compliant with whatever it is that you want to be compliant with.
That's fantastic. And one of the things I know that you also are really passionate about and pride yourself on is making sure that it works for them. It's not one size fits all. And
Right.
I know that you always offer a free consultation to even just start the process and just have the conversation to see if it's something that works. So how can people access you and get that free consultation with you?
It's very easy. Just go to our website at vcisoservices.com. There should be a button either on the front page, or actually both, on the front page or the contact us page. You just click on that and you'll get on my schedule 15 minutes. We'll talk about what it is you're looking for. And if it's something that we can help with, then we'll schedule a longer follow-up. You can also call if you'd like. It's very easy. We have a phone number on the website, or you can email our general address, info@vcisoservices.com.
Love it. So for those of you that are watching, listen to these things that Greg is talking about, because it's imperative. Stop spinning your wheels on these higher level items that you are not an expert at. Your business, your customers, they need you to be really compliant and have these things dialed in, not just for their protection, but also for your protection and being able to have you exist long term. So Greg, thank you for being here, for sharing, and for all of you watching, book a call with Greg and make sure that you are protected as well. So stay tuned, because we'll be right back with more Be Productive. Welcome back to Be Productive. We are going to be talking a little bit of leadership and productivity and how all that comes together. So to help me with this conversation, I have Chase Traffica joining us. So Chase, welcome to the show.
How are you doing, Claire? It's good to be back.
I am excellent. It's great to see you as well. Now, you are part of the leadership team with Turner Insurance and Bonding. And as leaders, sometimes we set the stage for everything. So I would love to, get sort of your take on productivity and leadership, because as leaders, we wear many different hats. So how do you sort of, navigate through the daily responsibilities and all the roles as being a leader and still staying productive?
Absolutely. So, Claire, I think the main objective for any leader is to get the most out of their team. So we can get bogged down in emails, just kind of the riffraff of life as it comes in, as we're asked to do multiple things throughout the day. So my objective on the front end is for everyone to focus on our high value activities that bring in the most benefit for the firm. And I think that can only be accomplished if we set clear goals in the beginning so we know what activities drive us towards those goals and the end product we want to produce.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought that up. You know, I refer to those as knowing our vital few. And you're right. You've got to really get clear on what is your job, because everybody's job, everybody's role is going to have a different vital few. So getting the clarity on that. And then it's easy to say, okay, now I know what my core actions are. How do you make sure that you and your team actually do them? What are some of the strategies you use to take it from theory to practical application?
I think being collaborative is a huge deal. So everybody isn't siloed into what they're doing. We try to take our meetings and make them useful and not make them wastes of time, which a lot of meetings can get to, especially after COVID has brought us into this range of Zoom videos and virtual meetings, which can be good, but that need to kind of be monitored for value. As we go through any meeting, I want people to feel like their input matters. From a very high level, I can put in place protocols, but if those don't work on the ground level, I want to know that so we can adjust. And if we know where we're going and we're all trying to go to the same place, I think as we know the other facets of the organization, the people in our organization can understand why their cog in the wheel matters to another piece of the machine. And once they understand that, we can all be on the same train towards being productive there.
Yeah, so true and really important. And I love this idea of being collaborative. You know, I think sometimes as leaders, we tend to put all the weight on our shoulders and we tend to think, I have to do it all. And, you know, it's this idea of collaboration, delegation, and bringing all that together. You know, when you're looking at your role and having to delegate, because again, being a VP, you can't do your core activities if you're doing all the other ones. Did you ever struggle with delegation? And if so, how, you know, what are some tips and tools that have helped you to better delegate with purpose?
Absolutely. I think delegation is a daily struggle because there's times where I don't want to put more work on our staff. There's times where I feel like I need to do this so it's done right. And you kind of have to, in your mind, set aside those feelings and say, listen, I can't work 20 hours a day every day. So if I can't do that, how is our firm going to move forward and what's best for our clients? So I try to identify some real key players in our firm that can take on substantial responsibilities and then give them those responsibilities and then allow them to mess up. I think if we can allow mistakes to be made, we can learn from those mistakes in the long run instead of being punitive every time a mistake is made. So allowing people to be wrong and make mistakes, I think, is a huge part of delegation.
Yeah. Can you think, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, either for you or maybe in your company, what was a mistake that was made that actually led to something really good?
Yeah, so I think a biggest kind of blunder that led to a positive would some of our account management staff took something I asked them to do, put it into practice, and in all honesty, it was a terrible practice. It was great in theory. In practice, it was awful. But as one client came back to us and said, hey, this kind of makes it more difficult for me to process things than if we did it this way, we were able to go back to the drawing table, figure out a way that was better in practice than in theory. And we kind of went from there. And now our clients have a process that is streamlined. And as a leader, sometimes it's hard to realize, hey, maybe I'm the problem. So I think seeing that if you have that overhead view and it's not working, kind of going to ground level and being in that place and saying, okay, well, this is a better route, and being humble enough to say, I don't know everything.
Yeah, so key. And I think that that is a really strong message that I really hope people are hearing, because again, a strong leader understands they don't always have it perfect. And that's another reason to surround yourself, you know, with great people. Because you're right, sometimes on paper, it's an idea that sounds perfect, but in practicality, it doesn't work. So being able to do those, I think that's wonderful. I want to just highlight your company a little bit and talk a little bit about your company, because I know that you are doing things a little bit different. You know, we talk about insurance and bonding, and that's not always the most exciting thing for some people to talk about, but, you know, you do things at a really different level. You know, adding value to the client is so key. So I want to, you know, just kind of give a little bit of shout out to you and your company. What are some of the things that you do different and unique for the clients that you work with to not just, you know, make money for the company, but that also can help your clients do things at a higher level?
Absolutely. So a couple of things just to summarize what our entire mission is we're trying to take insurance and bonding that is a cost and a negative on the P&L and create an asset out of it. So the word value is well overused in our industry, but we truly want to bring an approach that helps the business, not just on their insurance program, but throughout the entirety of their business. Today, we created a business continuity toolkit for our business owners, kind of a succession planning outline. It doesn't help us at all, but if we can help our owners understand that piece of it before it's too late, we can bring a little more value than just bringing in price for an insurance program.
Ah, I love that. Again, thinking about what is it that they need. And again, sometimes when we add value, not specifically in the immediate need, but we're just adding value to make their business better, that's how we build trust with people. And that's how we build those long-term relationships. So I love that. So Chase, tell us a little bit more about where people can find you. If they want to learn, you know, more about your company, the value and the processes and, you know, products that you provide, what's the best place for people to reach out and find you?
Absolutely. Turnerfirst.com has all our information. You can get in contact with us there. It has a little bit about what we do, kind of our mission and where we're headed in the future. And that's the easiest place to gather that information.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. Well, you heard it. You know, being a good leader sometimes means that you're going to make mistakes. So let's embrace those mistakes. And then again, the biggest message is if you want to really be productive and have your team be productive, you got to get clear on what are the core foundational activities and then build your week around that. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned because we'll be right back for more Be Productive.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation.